Well, we continue to keep a keen eye on resident protests against crime, gangsterism and drugs in Johannesburg. A group calling itself the Gauteng Shutdown Co-ordinating Committee is meeting with predominantly coloured communities in Eldorado Park, Johannesburg, to discuss the way forward with regard to shutdown protests. Our reporter Manqoba is in the midst of the community. We're live to him now. Good afternoon, Manqoba. This has been one of the communities really on a knife's edge this week. What's happening there now, and is that meeting underway?
Well, certainly, Kashni, that meeting is currently underway here, just behind me at this centre here where they've gathered. And we do understand that it started at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And what we've been told so far is that all the community leaders from the different so-called coloured areas have gathered here this afternoon to kind of map a way forward to what is going to happen tomorrow. We have received confirmation, of course, from some of the leaders that indeed that planned shutdown is going to go ahead tomorrow. In fact, saying that they plan to intensify this action. You recall, of course, that on Friday, some of these communities heeded the call for a total shutdown. We saw residents of Annandale as well as residents of Eldorado Park taking to the streets, blockading the streets and burning tires, responding to that call to go on the streets to air their grievances. You'll know, of course, that the issues that most of these communities have been raising are issues of drugs as well as crime in their areas, saying that it's reached levels that are really out of control. And they're saying that they want government to step in, saying that they feel left out and neglected by government. And they say that it's time now that government comes on board and intervenes, and saying that they are hoping to see interventions like the one we saw in Westbury last week being effected also in their community. So what they're telling us this afternoon, Kirshni, is that they will go ahead, and they're saying that this time around all communities, all coloured or so-called coloured communities are going to take part in this protest, unlike Friday where only we saw those two communities taking place. But just to get a sense of what is going to happen come tomorrow morning, I'm joined by one of the community leaders from the Riverlea community, Mr. Ronald Dyers. Ronald, tell me first of all, what are some of the issues that are affecting your communities? We've heard from the community of Westbury as well as the community of Eldorado Park as well as Annandale about their issues of drugs and crime. Are you facing similar challenges?
Yes, indeed. I think the challenges in these coloured communities are basically the same. But it's also, let's say, as to where those communities are. For instance, in Riverlea, you had, let's say, a large mining project whereby the whole community from Riverlea never benefited a single cent. Then some of the other communities also, mostly some of them, you find that they don't have housing, there aren't jobs and so on. The communities, for instance, in Westbury, Nuclear and Waterval are just next to UJ, but you don't find real students from these communities attending those varsities. So you've got a similarity of common problems amongst these communities, but also in terms of each community as to where it's situated, you've got some unique challenges as well. And we need government to come and address these challenges, because time and again you had meetings and so on, you may be made promises, but nothing transpires. And this is what, let's say, makes this whole project of cohesion in this country gone astray, in terms of government not heeding and bringing these coloured communities also into the fray of equality.
Let's talk about the issue of drugs. This is some of the issues that have been raised by some of the communities, saying that the drug issue is a big problem in predominantly coloured communities. What is it like in your community?
I think in all coloured communities, also in Riverlea, you have the same type of problem. Most of the police stations, even in Langlaagte, they know as to who the drug lords are, they know as to who the dealers are, the communities complain. The solution to our problem is not rehabilitation houses. The solution to our problems, not only in those areas like coloured communities, like in Riverlea, but even in our black communities, the solution is really to stem our drugs. And Riverlea is calling for that, Elders is calling for that, all the communities are calling for that. And we should now take a stance and say, government is not heeding the call and seeing that its people are suffering, and they need to come down to the ground and start protecting its people from these harms.
Of course, on Friday, Riverlea did not heed that call to be part of a total shutdown. What's happening tomorrow? Are residents of Riverlea going to be part of this protest?
Riverlea will take, and all of the other communities, but Riverlea will take the stance that comes from this meeting today. If this meeting today decides that we are shutting down, then Riverlea will shut down the main artery coming from Soweto and the main artery on Main Reef. We will shut it down and we will force this government, as Mr. Makura had acknowledged before, that indeed these communities are marginalized. Now they must come to the party and show redress for these communities.
Okay, let's hold it there for now. Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Dyers from the Riverlea community. I'm going to be joined now by another community leader who is from South Hills. That's another area, so-called predominantly coloured area here in Johannesburg. Mr. R.T. Adams. Mr. R.T. Adams, I know that your community, you've said that there are many issues there with your community as well. What are some of the biggest challenges that are facing you?
The biggest challenge that facing me in the south is that housing, unemployment, education, drug dealing. We're facing a lot of social economy in the south. My concern is today that the people that we bring in, we're coming mostly with foreigners, if I may put it that way. These foreigners has got excesses that you can't believe as South Africans. We can't even talk about something. Then you know that you are talking to a foreigner or you're talking to a minister, that these foreigners got more power than our people in South Africa. Therefore, I will say to the media, we must stop these things. South Africa is the only country that is violating our rights. That's violating the colored rights, violating the social rights of us. Because when we come to the media, when we hear the people are talking about job creations, first and foremost, or entrepreneurs, the first and foremost is we got to look at the black people to be skilled, the black people to get the money, black people to start a business, and all that type of thing. These are the things that is making us more hatred than going forward in the country. This country was one of the most beautiful countries that you can travel. I have traveled maybe to one overseas, maybe sometime aboard, whatever it is. I went to Cape Town, I stayed in Bloemfontein, I stayed all over. But you know, my heart is bleeding to Johannesburg. Johannesburg, Jersey is my place. Okay. I was born and bred in Lichtenburg under the white regime at that time. But I came to South Africa in Gauteng as Jersey to come and make a better life and to see that our children will benefit the same as all the other ethnic groups, because we should not divert to say who's who and who's in the zoo.
Okay, so is your community going to join in tomorrow's protest?
Well, at this point of time, I'm not in the meeting right now, they're inside. But I will see what the caucus is all about, and we will then liaise with our guys as the way forward and how we see it. Because I am a very democratic type of person. I think before I do something drastically, I will inform my people how to handle the situation. If it's necessary, we're not using armed force, which is against myself because humanity. And second of all is, we got to have respect.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, that was one of the community leaders, R.T. Adams, from the South Hills community, also painting a picture there of some of the social ills in their communities, saying that drugs as well as crime are some of the issues that are facing these communities, and that's why they felt the need to also be part of this meeting to also decide whether or not they will be joining that protest that is expected to continue on Monday.
Manqoba there covering the coloured community leaders meeting that's underway in Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg this hour. Now that meeting today really centering around the shutdown protests that are planned for tomorrow. It's still not clear now which area